Welcome everybody to Taste Different Gaming News. What's on the news today? The old ex-PlayStation boss Sean Layden says exclusivity is your Achilles heel, but only if you spend over $200 million to make a game. So, pocket change. All right. So video game exclusivity is one of the hottest topics within the industry after recent moves by both Microsoft and Sony to release their first-party games on multiple, sometimes rival platforms. This, coupled with rising development costs and increasingly squeezed margins, has caused some to question whether the console exclusive has a future. I can't talk. Speaking in an interview with VentureBeat, former president and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment America, Sean Layden, said when a video game cost exceeds $200 million, exclusivity is a hard word and is your Achilles heel. It reduces your addressable market, Layden continued, before citing the success of Arrowhead's Helldivers 2. Go check our review. It's awesome. Which launched on PlayStation 5 and PC to explosive success, particularly when you're in the world of live service gaming or free-to-play. Another platform is just another way of opening the funnel. Getting more people in a free-to-play world, as we know, 95% of those people will never spend a nickel. Unless you're Pat. He loves Helldivers too. The business is all about conversion. You have to improve your odds by cracking the funnel open. Helldivers 2 has shown that for PlayStation, coming out on PC at the same time. Again, you get that funnel wider. You get more people in. All right. So everybody knows prices, cost of game development are weird. Some games, hundreds of millions of dollars. Some games, just a few million. And just a few million is all it takes sometimes for them to be so good that they're, just raking it in. And then you can spend $200, $300 million for a game that's and not doing as well. So let's get with the guys here and find out what they think about exclusivities and basically the cost of game development. Development has gone up for every generation of console. Game development goes up, cost goes up. So let's go to Nick first because he just looks like he wants to talk. Nick,
I don't want to talk.
No. Shut the fuck up, Pat.
Yeah, I mean, game development costs. It doesn't matter how much. It doesn't seem to matter how much a developer spends on development costs, because a lot of the, we were talking about this before, but like Spider-Man 2, which was a good game, but I think there were better offerings last year. Was a budget over $270 million. I think it was like $315 million budget for that game. It's how much the development cost was for it. And one of the, best games of the year last year that won lots of accolades and awards and things like that was Baldur's Gate 3, which was $100 million to develop. Right. And then we have other games that come out that have a much smaller development cost that, again, do way better, and I think are better than a lot of the more expensive games. Starfield was $200 million development cost, and while that game was all right, I think there was better offerings. And then there was another game I just can't think of what it was, but it was another big game that came out last year that was $200 million to develop. And again, there was other things that came out that were much better than it, right? And so it's not about the cost of these games, or Skull and Bones is what I was thinking of. Sorry, that was a quadruple A, right? as Ubisoft puts it. And again, there was better offerings. That game came out this year, but there were better offerings, and there's been better offerings even this year than even Skull and Bones, in my opinion. And that game did change a lot of hands a lot and things like that. It did change development a lot and was in development for a very long time, right? So you can imagine the development cost for that game being high. But I agree with Sean Layden about, I understand why developers or why Microsoft, Sony, or Nintendo wants to have exclusivity. I get that. But I think for developers of these games, it's better to have everything out on everything. I would rather have every game out on every console or device, PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, whatever, than having games come to this and that and everything like that. I understand why, like Microsoft and Sony want to do that because they want you to come to their platform. They want you to buy from their platform and understand that. I think some people in the community are going to be like us. They're going to buy all the devices and play wherever those things come out. Some individuals, will make their console or PC purchase based on where their friends play, or, if they don't have any friends, then based on preference, so everyone's going to choose their side, right? And even if they have a game that's going to come out on a separate platform, doesn't mean not always, that individual is going to jump or purchase said platform just to play X game, whatever X game is. Shane talked about Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 is a great game. Love that game. I would love to see that game. We're playing it on PlayStation, and it's a great game, and I love playing it. I would love to see that game on Xbox. I don't think there's a reason why it shouldn't be over there. I think for Arrowhead, in this case, it would bring in, they're already making a good amount of money of this game on PlayStation and PC, but this would just open up, like he said, open the funnel even wider. Now you have the Xbox audience that would funnel in and start playing this game, and then this game would go even bigger than it is today, right? By adding those individuals in. So I know Sony, gave them, I don't know if did they publish them, or did they just help with the development costs? I can't remember if they published them or not, but they did one of two things. But and that's probably the reason why it's staying exclusive to Sony's console and not going to the Xbox. But I think it would behoove Sony even to say, like, hey, put this out on whatever. I think Microsoft and even Sony, Microsoft just did this with, the 4 games that they pushed off to the PlayStation. I think they're looking at it, and it may not be for every single game, but I think Sony and even, I think Microsoft and even Sony is kind of looking at, like, hey, things are getting expensive, and consoles is not really where we make our not where our bread's made. That's not where we really make the money. It comes from software. So it might be better in our benefit to kind of loosen up the exclusivity reins and kind of throw stuff out a little bit quicker. I think you will see in the future, and I don't know how quickly you'll see this, but I think you'll see Sony games like Spider-Man 2 and stuff like that, as an example, coming out to PC in a much quicker timeline than they do today, right? Today, it's like a year or two later, then they come out on PC. I think you'll see that. I don't think it'll be day and date because Sony's just too snooty about that. But I think the timeline will be much shorter. So you might be looking at, it might be a year or two before it comes out. I think in the future, and probably not that long in the future, you'll see games probably like maybe 6 months later coming to PC after they've come out on the PlayStation. And I think it's just because Sony's seeing that they want to keep the exclusivity because they want people to come to their console, but at the same time, they need to open that funnel a little bit more because even on the PC side, they are making a lot of money, and it would be better in their benefit to throw a game on their console as well as shift it over to the PC. And the quicker they can do that, the more money that's going to make. Because I feel like the longer it stays out of the PC market, once it finally arrives there, I just feel like it's not going to get the attention because it's been so long, right? Compared to a shorter time frame when it's fresh in people's minds and they're like, oh yeah, that new Spider-Man 3 game's coming to PC here in a couple months, right? Or something like that. But I get it. I get what he's saying. And I think it's not for exceeding 200 million. I think for I think it's a good. I understand why he says that amount, but I think it's good for any amount of cost for a game, just to be everywhere, so everybody can just pick what platform they like to play it on and go there and play it, right? And then cross play across the board, right? You want to play with your friend on PC or PlayStation, on your Xbox or vice versa or whatever, then great, turn on the cross platform and there you go. So, what do you think, Pat?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I mean, you have to have to be profitable. I think even at $30 million and $50 million, you have to have a damn good top tier game to be console exclusive. That's just the nature of the beast, right? Because I'm going to take a game that I know both of you love and talk critically about what it was cost to develop and that it's not a success. Alan Wake 2. Alan Wake 2 cost $75 million US to make. It has not recouped its money yet. I think they're talking about it's about to recoup its money, but it hasn't recouped its development cost yet. They sold 1.1 million or 1.3 million copies yet. So the developer is not yet making money off of that damn game because of the publisher, right? Publisher's still making the money. So that game released on everything, and it only cost $75 million to make. I think it was $50 million, $54 million in development costs, and like $21 million in marketing and all this stuff. That game's kind of niche to me. It's horror. You got to be a horror game fan to enjoy it, first of all. And it's got a little nostalgia kick from the Alan Wake original game. That's what drove most people to probably play this one, right? And it released on everything. Can you imagine if Alan Wake only came out on PS5 or only on Xbox, how much more money they would have not, or how much longer it will take them to recoup it? Because I do think that they're going to recoup it eventually. It's only, what's it been out for now? 5 months? Something like that, 5-6 months. So they're tiptoeing their waters into making their money, right? They're slowly starting. I think they're like dipping their toe into recouping the money now. So they're in the profit side. But I think that exclusivity is a bad thing for pretty much any game that costs more than $10 million to make. I mean, because especially a no-name title, that's a risk in the biscuit right there, right? I don't know if this thing's going to make any money, but it cost me $10 million to develop it. I need that thing to be out on as much coverage as I can to try to recoup my money. So exclusivity kind of is ruining the game market a little bit. It has created the toxic community that we have today, right? You have the de facto Xbox and Sony ponies, right? The people who are hardcore, blinders on, can't see when either company is doing a shitty tactic or doing a shitty job. People. Like, let gamers be the deciding factor on, if there's not enough people playing Xbox, goes away. Microsoft did something bad, right? They didn't have what gamers wanted. Same thing with PlayStation. They do something bad and their console disappears. If any of these guys go the way of Sega, they were doing something bad, right? Or not to what gamers want. And so that's where it needs to play out in that, and I'll be honest with you. I could see, I'll bitch about Xbox all day long when they do something bad, and I'll bitch about Sony all day, but I own everything, right? And we all do. We'll call them out when they're doing dirty tactics and shitty things, but to put something out on one console or the other is just, in this day and age, it is just a delay tactic to try to get the other console to lose revenue and falter, right? That's really all it is. It's like, we're going to hurt Sony by only making an Xbox exclusive. We're going to hurt Microsoft by making only a PlayStation exclusive. We're going to drive their players to our console. In all reality, you're probably not. Or the number that you're going to drive based off of one game is so minute that it's like a drop in the bucket. Like, that bucket was so dry and that drop hit it that it immediately was gone. You didn't realize a droplet fell in that bucket, right? Like, Helldivers probably got a few people that have Xboxes to buy a PlayStation. A lot of them, I bet you couldn't even tell if it was a spit droplet or a rain droplet that hit the Sony ecosystem with that. So I don't there's very few like console driving games out there, right? Like I'm a perfect example of somebody like that. Like I never owned a PlayStation until PS3 days, and Horizon made me buy a PlayStation. I was a PC gamer, so I really wasn't into the console gaming too much. And then I got a PS3 and an Xbox 360, and I had both of them. But I was not interested in the PlayStation at the time until Horizon came out, and I'm like, I really want to play that, and that was a console driving game for me. And I don't know how much of that's a console driving game, but I think that people like me in those situations are in the minority of gamers. Like the people who buy a PlayStation had an intention of buying a PlayStation. The people who buy an Xbox, the majority had the intention of buying an Xbox. Now that I own all of it, my primary console is the Xbox because I think the Xbox ecosystem is a lot better than PlayStation. PlayStation has a lot better first-party games than Xbox does, and I play those on PlayStation. I like to play certain genres of games on my PC. Like, I think survival games are PC bread and butter. RTSs, PC bread and butter. Some RPGs, PC bread and butter, right? Shooters, they work a lot better and a lot better on the PC, but I typically get those on the console because I like to sit in my chair and relax and play those. But exclusivity is toxic in the community because all it is a business tactic to hurt the other company, which it's business to business. It is what it is at that point. But I do, if you make a $300 million game or a $200 million game, can it survive on your console with just being on your console? I think the odds are stacked against you. So I do believe to some extent that he's right. That you're stacking the deck against yourself. If it costs me $200 million to make this, I need as much spread as I can to try to recoup that money. If I don't want to go the way of the dodo, I better put it out to everybody who can get it. Because how much more money could Arrowhead have made if it was on Xbox, if Helldivers was on Xbox? Another $10 million, $20 million. We'll never know, but they could have made a whole shit ton more money if it just came out on everything. But Sony got their claws into Arrowhead and like, hey, well, we'll publish this for you. We'll give you some sweetheart deal that we'll never know about if you don't put this on Xbox. We won't allow you to put this on Xbox if we publish it. And we're going to give you, I don't freaking know what. We're going to give you $20 million worth of development costs for free. I have no clue what sweetheart deal they gave them to say, don't put this on Xbox.
And it probably hurt them ultimately in the long
run. I think it will
ultimately.
It will because it's a loss in revenue, right? They've lost out on that market of players because I'll be honest with you, as much as I like the game, I would prefer to play it on my Xbox. I don't like the PlayStation ecosystem. I hate the PlayStation dashboard with a passion. It is. Well, Shane could attest to that. He accidentally deleted his damn game because their menus are so jacked up and so annoying. It's like their dashboard makes absolutely no sense. Like Xbox, I could turn my Xbox off by pushing 2 buttons. In PlayStation, I've got to push a button, go down to another menu, scroll all the way over, push another menu to put the damn thing into rest mode. On Xbox,
but you got to make sure you don't push and hold. Yes. That takes you to a whole
push and hold. That does something. Yeah. And it, I could be a little bit biased because I've lived on the Xbox ecosystem because it's my primary console and I'm used to it, but it's 2 button clicks to put my console into rest mode. PlayStation is like, push the button, push down, push over, push another button, scroll down, push another button. And I'm like, this is the stupidest thing ever. I want to do a simple task. Like, it's dumb, but it's neither here nor there. I play all of them. I like all of them, but I prefer the ecosystem of one over the other. But by putting something on one, luckily we've got PlayStations, and Helldivers is an amazing freaking game. It's great. Love it. But they are losing out on revenue, like millions of dollars in revenue by cutting out a chunk of the gaming market.
Well,
not much I could say except for they're shooting themselves in they're shooting their self in their face, shooting their stuff. They're shooting themselves in the foot. They stepped on the rake. They're Looney Tunes in this thing right now. They're running back and forth and smacking themselves in between the 2 rakes.
Yeah. See, I don't know if so in this situation, I don't know enough about the partnership, but between the Helldivers developer and PlayStation for what kind of deal they made. So I don't know if if it was a money thing and they just needed help creating it. You never really know when it comes to a new IP what it's going to do. I don't know if they took
That's
into
not a new
account that
IP,
it
right?
would. Well, it's based off a previous IP of a, but it's a different type of game than that game because the original was a top down. This is a whole FPS. FPS games are and FPS players are finicky. Well, technically it's third person, but you get what I mean. So, and I don't know if Helldivers 1 was a massive hit or what, but I sometimes a partnership for exclusivity for a small developer you have to do. Now, here's the thing though. Sony Sony's holding some cards right now that they could use on Microsoft and say, "Look, I'm going to let you have this on your console. I get X amount of dollars and it's going to benefit everybody." And then they could say, "But I'd like you to put out the next whatever on, PlayStation as well." You know, something they picked up from the Activision purchase. They could do anything. Exclusivities are only good, I think, at launch of a new console. Bring in X, Y, Z, because at this stage of game development, it's so goddamn much money that exclusive is Spider-Man 2, 300 and some odd $1 million, $30 million over their budget. I don't know if they recouped it or not because the game was really good, but it was not Helldivers good. It was not Baldur's Gate good. Hell, it wasn't even Alan Wake 2 good. But I really like the game. So, Sean Layden's not wrong. I think, but I think it's not about the cost. It's just about how much you want to make. It's not how much you spend. It's about how much you want to make. And exclusivity is cutting out, even if Microsoft is 75% of the console market, doesn't matter. Another, 30 million consoles out there are begging for a game right now. So I would love to play Helldivers 2 on my Xbox. I believe I love the PlayStation 5 controller. Don't get me wrong. I really like it. It's really good. But I think my Elite Xbox controller is much better. And I would love to play it on my Xbox. So exclusivities, game costs, they're gonna be big problems, I think.
Yeah. I like my Xbox controller and ecosystem so much better that I would probably rebuy Helldivers 2 on Xbox to not have to play it on the PlayStation.
I would probably agree with that too.
I'd probably do that.
And that's the funny thing about consoles is everybody is a Sony pony. Everybody is a Xbot. Everybody is a Switch bitch. I don't know what they call Nintendo, but but everybody has. There's something about that console that they prefer. Sony deserves to be first place for their console because they have done a lot of things right where Microsoft has failed. First person games, or first party games, excuse me. They have nailed it, knocked it out of the park. Microsoft has been very lacking on it. They're getting better, but they're still lacking. But when it comes to these exclusive games that are not first party, I don't understand that partnership. Final Fantasy 15 was or not 15, 16. God, I can't keep up with names. That one was a letdown financially because they limited their people. Granted, the game wasn't great. It wasn't terrible by any means. It just didn't feel like a good Final Fantasy game. But they still would have had a lot more sales putting it out on Xbox. I mean, they put out 15 on Xbox. 15, if I remember correctly, did extremely well. They lopped off a market, you know. Yeah, it's not like, you know, they were trying to put it on the Switch. I mean, it's not like it would have been a tech issue, except for maybe the Series S holding it back a bit. So, anyways, I think they need to. I think Sean Layden's right. I don't think it's about money spent. I think it's more about how much money you want to earn. I think that's where it's going to come down to. Even if you spend $5 million or $300 million, if you want more money, you got to get it out on more systems. I mean, PC, Switch, Xbox, PlayStation. Hit them all.
At some point, it is how much you spend, right? You can overspend.
That's true.
What your revenue potential on that console is, you know. So if you're, like you said, a new IP that nobody really knows anything about, can you develop that for $10 million and expect to recoup that on Xbox only or PlayStation only or even Nintendo only? Can you expect to recoup that cost plus make it worth your while so that you can move on and develop the next thing you want to make in your repertoire? Yeah. I just think that it's too risky at any cost, especially for a no-name IP in this day and age. But if you're spending $100 million or more to make a game, exclusivity, to me, I kind of agree with him, unfortunately, that because I really don't like
He's
that
a
person.
douche.
Yeah. And I hate that I'm not agreeing with him, but I think if you're spending $100 million to develop a game, then exclusivity should be like the last thing in your brain.
Well, I think at the end of the day, somebody's got to spend all their money. Somebody's going to make all their money. And I ain't got no money. So, but you guys got anything else to say about this costly subject? All right. All right. You made it to the end. So guess what? Tell us what you think. Does Pat right? Am I right? Nick right? I am right. But what do you think? Do you think exclusivities over a certain amount hurt, or just exclusivity in general? Because I have my feelings. Pat has his. Nick has his. We want yours. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the notifications, the subscriptions, all the good stuff down there. And we'll see you next time. See ya.